After spending a month in St. Lucia, it's time to review our receipts and break down how much we spent on things like accommodations, transportation, restaurants, groceries, and activities in St. Lucia. Now, St. Lucia is one of the most picturesque Caribbean islands, known for the pitons and for the incredible nature that surrounds them. We found the slow pace of the island to be refreshing and relaxing. So if you're looking for a place to relax and chill out, take a mineral bath or two, and watch a sunset, then St. Lucia might be a good option for you. Expense-wise, St. Lucia is a mixed bag, filled with really expensive options and really inexpensive ones as well. So if you're on a budget, we'll try to clue you into the places that are more affordable. But be sure to stay to the end to see our full cost breakdown of how much we spent over 30 days in St. Lucia. That way, you can get a better idea of how much this slow travel and digital nomad lifestyle costs. Also, we'll explore the big question: would we choose to live in St. Lucia? All in this episode of Lucas World Travel. Well, hey world travelers, I'm Kendra Lucas.
And I'm David Lucas. And this year we're living as slow travelers, spending a month in each destination. So if you're interested in all sorts of travel tips from the Caribbean and to see how much the digital nomad lifestyle actually costs, then be sure to subscribe for even more of that. Naturally, your biggest expense when you come to St. Lucia will be your accommodations. St. Lucia is a mix of fancy resorts and affordable guest houses and apartments.
So when you come to St. Lucia, you're going to want to stay in Gros-Islet and Soufrière. And hotels in Gros-Islet start very affordably, with guest houses at about $42 a night to even as low as $65 a night. But if you want to stay at more resort-style luxury places, you're going to be in the $400 to $600 range. In Soufrière in the south, prices are a bit higher because there's less selection, but they still have very affordable houses for rent for $65 a night. But the resorts do get quite pricey, still at $400 a night to as much as $1,500 for Jade Mountain and $1,100 for Sugar Beach. But if you're like us and searching for long-term rentals, you have as low as $1,100 a month, but this one's higher in the hills, so you would probably need a car for that one. We stayed here for about $1,843 a month, but you also have places that are as expensive as $2,000 or $5,500 a month. If you prefer more city life, you could also stay in Gros-Islet or Rodney Bay area, and prices are a bit better here, starting as low as $668 a month, going all the way up to $2,500 a month. But again, you would probably need a car in these locations because they're more interior to the island.
So for accommodations, we wound up paying $1,842.89 for 28 days rental, which comes out to about $65 per day. We decided to spend the majority of our time in Soufrière because it's where the majority of the attractions are. We also spent one night in Gros-Islet for $84.38, so we would be able to go to the Friday night party and see Pigeon Island National Park. We also spent one night in Castries, which was $89, so we could catch the ferry to Martinique the next morning, all of which amounted to an additional $173.38 on hotels on the island.
Now, for transportation, having a car rental is beneficial in St. Lucia, as it helps you move around the island freely without any hassles. Now, car rentals are a bit expensive though. In St. Lucia, they start at about $50 to $60 per day. So that's why we chose to only rent a car for 7 days of our 30-day stay. So altogether, our weekly car rental cost was $376.65 a week. And that comes to about $53 per day, which we found to be a little bit more costly compared to the other Caribbean islands we visited. Gas prices are $3.63 EC per liter, which equates to about $5.11 USD per gallon. However, because the distances in St. Lucia aren't so vast, we still only wound up paying $41.44 for gas for our week in St. Lucia, which I don't consider to be too bad. For public transportation, we took minibuses in between Castries and Soufrière twice. Now, it's about an hour-long bus ride, so the cost is about $9 EC, or $4 US. So in total, we spent about $21.42 USD, and that includes the price of our luggage traveling with us too. For flights, we flew from Barbados to St. Lucia on Inter-Caribbean Airline, spending about $191.52 per person for a one-way flight and our checked baggage. Altogether, that came to $383.04 for two people. We found that Caribbean Air and Inter-Caribbean Airlines have really good affordable rates. So if you're into island hopping like we are, check out their websites for some of the best prices.
For restaurants, prices varied greatly. When we first arrived, we were worried that we weren't going to make it because every meal was like $70 to $80 USD, or $35 to $40 per person. We went for lunch to a resort restaurant called the Naked Fisherman, and our meal wound up being $86 USD. I was like, okay, this is just a splurge. The rest of the restaurants will be more affordable. But the next restaurant was $71, and the next was $69. I was seriously beginning to think that we made a mistake coming to St. Lucia because we travel full time, and these types of restaurant prices wouldn't be sustainable for us for long. Luckily, as time went by, we did find more affordable places to eat for $14 to $40 per meal, or $7 to $20 per person, which is much more reasonable in our opinion. So be sure to check out our 25 things to do in St. Lucia video, because all of the restaurants on the list are delicious but affordable. Now, the total we spent was $707.82 USD on restaurants for the month, which is much less than what we normally spend on restaurants while we're traveling. So it turned out that those very expensive restaurants didn't hurt our monthly restaurant budget after all, because we found more affordable places to eat later. Plus, the quantity of restaurants in Soufrière is less than other islands. So we eventually ran out of new places to eat, which decreased our desire to eat out.
Now for groceries, they have very affordable food and some very expensive food items as well. Naturally, the imported items are a lot more expensive, but the local items are quite affordable. For example, apples are on sale for $1.30, but they also have a bag of Pink Lady apples for about $14, people. So you can get affordable apples, or you can also get very expensive apples. Pick your poison. So mushrooms are about $6, and baby carrots are about $3.50. And somehow these zucchinis are affordable. That's about $1.50 per zucchini. They have mixed nuts on sale for about $10, but they also have cashews for very expensive. Their store brand pasta sauce is about $3.70 US, but Prego is going to run you about $5.50 US. So look at that. This is about $11.80 for 3 bell peppers. For veggie burgers are $6, and I think the regular burgers are $6 too. But staples like potatoes are just 60 cents a pound. Same with onions, they're only 60 cents a pound. Staples like beans are about $2 to $2.70. So in total, we spent about $350 USD on groceries, which is actually $50 less than what we normally spend. So grocery-wise, St. Lucia is not too expensive when it comes to groceries. You can eat very affordably if you choose the local and the generic products.
For activities, we spent $331.95, with our biggest expense being a taxi tour for $180 USD. Most activities in St. Lucia were very affordable. Entry into the national park was $10 USD per person. Entry into the drive-in volcano was $15 per person. Everything else was $3 USD to $7 USD to enter. And all of the beaches are free. So land activities won't break the bank when you come to St. Lucia. Honestly, transportation is the most expensive part of seeing the sights in St. Lucia. In addition, we spent $35.14 USD at the pharmacy for various vitamins and toiletries.
For phone service, we used Google Fi's basic plan so that we could get calls and texts on our US phone numbers while abroad. That came to $64.86 for 2 lines. And then we had to buy an eSIM for international data, which costs $59 for 10 gigs, which amounted to a total of $124.27 for the month of phone service. So, a month as a digital nomad in St. Lucia cost $4,387.98. Now, considering how expensive things were when we first arrived, I'm pleased with this number. So in general, we're spending roughly $3,700 to $4,600 a month to slow travel through the Caribbean. And so far, of the 4 islands we covered, Barbados is the most expensive, then Aruba, then St. Lucia, with Curacao being the most affordable island currently. But for the big question, would we choose to live in St. Lucia? And the short answer is no. The long answer is we wouldn't live in St. Lucia for 4 reasons. One reason is because St. Lucia doesn't have enough to do, really. I feel like once you do all the major tourist sites, there are not that many other activities to do until a festival comes, for example. And the quantity of restaurants is not so many, so we would feel bored both with activities and food pretty quickly there. Secondly, it's not easy to get supplies there. For example, my GoPro broke while in St. Lucia, and I couldn't find a store locally that sold any waterproof cameras, so I had to order it online. To my surprise, the import tax on electronics was an additional $115 on top of the cost of the camera, which I think is crazy expensive. So I wouldn't want to live in a place where I can't buy the items I need locally, and then I have to pay outrageous duties and fees to import them. Next, there were several places we went to do business where they were a bit disorganized and inefficient. For example, we went to a convenience store to buy oatmeal for breakfast, but the oatmeal was not properly registered in their payment system. So the checkout lady was just like, "Do you really want this?" And to me, I took that as like, do you really expect me to register this into our system just so you can eat some oatmeal? Another instance was at a local car rental place, and the owner misplaced his credit card machine. So I had to waste time coming back the next day to his office to pay. And I was like, "Sir, how are you in the car rental business of all things and are unprepared to accept a $300 credit card payment? It's not a small figure, you know?" So that's 2 separate occasions where businesses couldn't accept doing a simple task like accepting payment. And I really have never seen anything like that before. Another case is that it took us like an hour and 15 minutes to get a pizza at a local spot. So there was just a consistent pattern of inefficiency and inconvenience while we were on the island, and I just don't think I could deal with that long term. And lastly, there were frequent water outages while we were there. The water was out from 10 to 4 p.m. several days of the week. And while that was inconvenient, it was manageable. But on our last day, the water never came back on. So we didn't have water for the last 24 hours of our stay. So you can imagine how uncomfortable that gets. But even though we had these negative experiences in St. Lucia, doesn't mean that the island is not a great place to visit. St. Lucia has incredible nature and sights we haven't seen anywhere else before. I mean, it was so relaxing to experience all those mineral baths. The snorkeling was just incredible, some of the best we've ever experienced. And we just love the sights from the beaches. So as a tourist, St. Lucia is definitely worth visiting. I just don't think it was the right fit for us living-wise. And that's why our journey continues through the Caribbean and eventually through Asia as well. So be sure to subscribe to see our journey to 100 countries and to see where in the world we decide to live. Until next time, check out our cost of living playlist on the right there to see even more examples of how much it costs to live and travel around the world. As always, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for sharing with all your travel pals. And happy travel planning. Until next time. Bye.